let me kick off the record button first. So like the usual, maybe we should start with our status, the PR, and also the backtrack. I know yesterday is the holiday, many people. So maybe Sergey and Alala, anything to update? If we don't, then let's move on to first topic for today.
Sorry, I didn't have time to prepare PR status. I will do it during the meeting.
Sure, thank you, thank you. No problem. Let's move because I know yesterday is a holiday for everyone. So Willie, maybe we can pick up VPA first.
Yeah, the mute button, if it's turned on, works better. So yeah, this I think will be a pretty short. I think we over the last, I think last we spoke in November, and then we figured we'll work on changing the, modifying the KEP design to, Tim Hawkin had some concerns about using the, moving the resources allocated from spec to status. We agreed on how that should look like. We added, I think, the summary of the changes that we did over the last month or so. He was away in November and December. We didn't make much progress, but towards the end of January, we got traction. We were able to work together on this one, and Tim has a PR out that that's the first link that in this review Tim Hawkins PR, the 1883. So the summary of that is that we have moved resources allocated to from pod spec to pod status. I'm just going to make update in the KEP here. So, so that doesn't work well. So move it to resource from spec to status, and we had previously agreed on checkpointing the resources allocated in the kubelet. I've not had started working on it, but that's something I plan to work on as the first thing, so that we get that squared away. And the change that we discussed, went back and forth, is to add a pod status dot resize. This is the signal that the system, the cluster, would send to the user to see that, okay, your resize has been accepted, it's in progress, or it is temporarily not, it's deferred, which is temporarily not possible, but we'll retry later, or it is not feasible. Like if you request that a node has 4 CPU and you request 5, that's a case where it would become infeasible. So that, I think, is a fairly minimalistic set of signals that we can send to the to VPA in this case. And the proposal to add resize subresource, currently we're still going to use patch to, in the alpha version, we're going to use patch to update it. But in beta timeframe, we're looking to do add a /resize subresource, which is going to be used to set the desired resources by the user or VPA. And Tim has mentioned that he's going to go and check. He has a weekly meeting with the folks in Poland, the VPA team, and he's going to check with them and make sure that this is okay. From our side, I think we just want to look at this, give it a once over. You and Derek, both, if you could take a look at some point. We're targeting this for 122 at this point, right? So I see Derek has said no to 121, which is too late anyways, so that's all right. It came in at the last minute. So that PR, and then there is a second PR that I have, which is the changes to the CRI, which was mainly adding the template changes that was required, the PRR requirements, to make it ready for. I didn't know of this new process that you had to go through SIG Node or the sponsoring SIG. I got to know of that just a week before, and I thought it was being tracked for 121. But that's fine. We can track it for 122 if we have the review resource. So I'm going to start working on it as soon as this change goes in, and we are kind of final, probably starting next week. We have plenty of room for the code. We can get it early as soon as the branch for 122 opens. That's my plan. So I think what my ask for SIG Node is to just look at these changes, that mainly Tim Hawkins changes, and if they look good, if you have any concerns, I'll also run this by the SIG scheduling this week and see if they have any issues. But the change to scheduler is pretty minimal. Instead of looking at resources allocated in the spec, it's going to look at it in the status and do a max. So that was all from me.
Thanks, Willie, for updates. And I believe we talk about in the past, we agree okay with to move resource allocated from the pod spec to the pod status. Even we have some like the we have some concern, but do we agree on that one? Because the principle based on the pod spec and the status, the general of the Kubernetes KRM model and the spec and the status principle. So we kind of compromise that one. And we also agree in the past to do the no-code checkpoint for this feature. And then there's the new, we have one concern. It is basically, it is how to notify. There's the VPA in progress. So we are going to take a look at that, the resize, the new object added, and the new sub-resource added. That basically sounds like that's the main to address that concern from the SIG node in the past. So the rest of the stuff we are going to review of the latest updates. So we are going to mark this is for 1.22. So yeah, thanks. Any other concern, people, please?
Okay. If no other concerns, I had a question. I saw last week, I think I dialed into the meeting, there was a checkpoint restore kept discussion. I haven't yet had a chance to look into that change. I believe it is Adrian. Is there something, I know I've not been in the meetings for a little bit. Have I missed something that I could use for the checkpoint? Any new developments that I should look at while implementing the checkpoint restore, or do I follow what Derek last told me?
Hey, Vinay. So there's no, I don't think that checkpoint restore discussion was related to your work. That was more about entirely freezing a pod and at the C group level, and then potentially restoring it. So Adrian was going to make some updates to the enhancement, but it's not related to your work.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I won't spend time on that. I'll look up the CPU manager that you had recommended earlier and then use that as a template.
I'll look at your enhancement. The one thing I was wondering was, just from my memory, we're not allowing you to resize the pod overhead associated with a pod, correct? Just the container itself?
Correct. The API does not, at this point, the API does not support. It can, in the future, we may be able to do that, but I don't believe we have that as a goal for this cap.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any overhead will be just added as a constant to the resized. So resized value plus X.
Derek, can I ask you what's that question came from? Is there any use cases or your concern we allow this?
I was just thinking through other features that were in flight for graduation, and overhead was one, and was trying to make sure there wasn't any
Sure, thanks.
Relationship.
So if we don't have questions, let's move to next topic. Andrew, do you want to follow up checkpoint and the restore discussing last week we had? Thanks.
Yeah, hi. So last week, one of the results of the discussion was that the checkpoint restore CRI changes should not be part of the existing CRI API, and that an experimental CRI API should exist. And I just wanted to mention here that I ported all my pull requests to a experimental CRI API. I'm not sure if that's the right thing, but if someone could review the pull requests related to the changes, I would be happy to work with anybody here to get this forward. But it's now all in a API. I called it experimental. Maybe I misunderstood how it's supposed to be, but yeah, please let me know in the pull request. I just wanted to highlight it here that it has been moved forward.
Hey, Adrian, I can take a look at it, and then yeah, we can.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
That's it from my side.
Thank you, Andrew. And also I saw you post of your last week you posted of the demo there, simple demo there. Please, people follow up on the demo and take a look, and we can follow up more in detail in the future.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks. And next one, let's move to next topic. So Andrew, about the SIG version 1 subsystem. Thanks.
I think that might just be asking for a PR review.
Yeah, simply there is long time haven't been reviewed this PR, so please check if you have time. It's very simple. It's about C group version 1, and if you need details, I'm always happy to explain. It's not very clear solution, but yeah, that's it. Or do you need some technical details, or can you check it now? It's only three lines, I think.
Yeah.
We typically don't review PRs on Node meetings. We can get to that after the meeting.
I'll take a look. But is there something actually broken with Secret v1? That's what I'm unsure of. I'm not aware of anything being broken.
Yeah, it's broken, and it's currently it takes random mount point from the file, which has name from mount. Let me check. Yeah, basically from proc file system, it takes random mount point for C group, and there is also some issue with kind. If you check comment, you can see that we found that kind tests are also randomly passed before.
Yes, that's what I was trying to clarify. Are we saying that something is broken when the kubelet's not running in a container, or something is broken when the kubelet's in a pseudo sandbox like kind?
So in any cases, the mount point will be chosen randomly, because in most cases we have only one mount point for system D C group. There is no problem. But if you have some strange cases like kind, because kind has dirty hack with system D mounts, and in some my cases we have some bugs in CSI driver, so we experience issues.
To me, I don't. I'm a little bit unclear. It is. I did look at that PR in the morning. Sounds to me it is. I like the original author's proposal, and have the more clean definition where to start mount. But that for sure will break the kind. But even with that kind of fix, still there's the kind is run into issue. So I'm not sure that it is. So there's the two kind of problem. One, it is like the previous problem is like the random pick up the mount point if on the system D node, but that one is not necessarily fix those problem for all the cases. But on the other hand, for those kind cluster, and still this one's still running the problem because E2 still fail with the. So that's why I'm not sure. I like what he proposed, start from the root, more clean, but I can see that legacy region maybe it will be broken more for the existing cluster and existing production, could be, and so that's why this is why I'm not sure how to move forward with that one. So in your cases, I understand. I think I haven't clearly heard. So you run into some problem with the CSI driver. Or is that maybe is the different? I'm not sure that fix your problem, or it is just another.
It's kind of the same as we have with kind, so it's kind of unusual mount. So. Yeah, we can discuss in PR or in Slack or anywhere. It's I also don't know what will be best solution.
I guess I'm trying to figure out is like, it seems like there's a failing test in kind, which is good, but I don't really know. If we don't have a test that's testing like exotic mount point setups, then I'm wondering if we will best support what you're looking to support.
No. Currently, the kubelet choose a randomly mount point of system D C group mount. So there is no any request for some specific support.
We currently don't have any unit tests actually checking this behavior, which is presumably why this is kind of buggy. Like there's no test changes associated with this PR. So that was one of the things that made me not super confident when reviewing it,
probably.
especially because the design of the change has changed now, like I think once or twice at least.
Yeah, good point. Probably I can create some tests.
That would be awesome. And yeah, I think we can continue following up on the discussion in the PR just so it's all
will
in
be
one place.
great. It's here since October, I think. So any feedback will be appreciated.
Sure, thanks. So next one, I think Andrew still came from you, but I think the Derek already respond for the video records in the past. And thanks, Derek, actually, for last couple years. I just click off the record button and Derek do all the hard work and upload. Derek.
Yeah, I got to download all the stuff and get it uploaded, but all the recordings are there, so I will get as many as I can this afternoon.
Thanks, Derek, for all those. And the next one, David, do you want to update? Actually, I already approved that PR, but I still, maybe you want
to. Big thanks. Yeah, for that one, I just put a PR. This has been like kind of a long-standing PR, I think, since I saw October, to fix an orphan pod. So basically when pods are orphaned, sometimes the volumes are not cleaned up properly. There was like another issue. I think it's been a long time issue, but this seems to be like a good initial fix. And we did see some, at least for us in production, some actually customers hit this case. So that's kind of why I brought it up. But yeah, it looks like this is kind of mixed SIG Node, SIG storage, but Jing from SIG storage actually took a look at it and looked like it was a good fix. So yeah, thanks Don for taking a look. And I don't know if anyone else has seen similar issue with orphan pod volume cleanup. Hopefully it'll help out. And yeah, we might actually consider cherry picking, I guess, for older changes. I can help get that in. Yeah, that's it for that one.
Thanks. Actually, we saw this kind of falling apart in the production once a while. Yeah, so there's the several attempts to fix this from the SIG storage in the past.
I see.
And, yeah, so thanks for brought this up.
Yeah,
so next, I think the still David and the higher commander and for the sad weather related topic.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was thinking since we have a little time, we can maybe go through this KEP, just get some initial thoughts on it. And a lot of people have already provided some comments. So I was thinking we just maybe can go over it very briefly and kind of get some more eyes on it. Yeah, maybe if you can share, if I can share my screen. I don't know if it'll help.
I'll give to you. Yeah, just
awesome.
1 second. You can share now.
Perfect. All right, I think that should be sharing. Yeah, so anyways, this is a KEP that me and Peter have been working on. So basically the high level idea, by the way, so we already kind of decided for 121, we just kind of want to get some more kind of thoughts around this and agreement and so forth. And so that's kind of our goal for 121, just kind of close on the future direction, I suppose, here. So thanks for everyone who've already taken a look, but just kind of, I'll provide a little background. So the whole idea here is that today we get, Kubelet collects a lot of container and pod level metrics. And today that comes mostly from cAdvisor. And so we've seen, and we've had, I think, previous discussions in SIG Node that that's something we kind of want to eventually move away from for various reasons. And So some of the reasons is that right now CRI is actually collecting some statistics as well, and some are being collected from cAdvisor. So ideally, we want to kind of center around one source of truth for metrics. The other thing is that like every container runtime needs to integrate with cAdvisor today. So cAdvisor has special code for Docker, for Containerd, for CRI-O, et cetera. So ideally, that would be in the CRI implementation. And then also we've seen some perf issues, like I think Peter and Red Hat folks can mention, because some of the metrics are collected twice, for example, by cAdvisor and also by the runtime itself. So I'll just kind of go over briefly the cap here. So there's multiple kubelet metric endpoints like that have been built out over the years. There's the summary API, there's the metric cAdvisor endpoint, there's also some other endpoints. So our kind of goal here is basically focused around the summary endpoint. And David Ashball did a lot of work here, and I think we more or less, and maybe this is actually a good question for everyone, but I feel like we came to some agreement as a community that summary API is something that we can't really break, that a lot of people rely on today. So we need to kind of, whatever we do, we need to somehow support the summary API moving forward, right? So that's kind of the idea that we went with in this cap, is that summary API we need to support. So basically the problem today is that there's two, when you ask the summary API for metrics, it can collect metrics either from cAdvisor directly, if you're not using CRI, or if you are using CRI, it collects some metrics from CRI, but most of the metrics are actually coming from cAdvisor today. So Peter did a lot of awesome work here and put together this table that basically shows the summary field and then the corresponding, basically where it's provided from today, which is cAdvisor for most of the stuff you can see in this column. And then this field is the corresponding metric on the cAdvisor Prometheus endpoint, if there is one. And so basically what we kind of went through is we just went through each metric and kind of said that more or less for every metric that is in the summary API that's not present in CRI today, we want to add it to the CRI and eventually have the CRI collect that metric and report it. So that the future goal is that summary API can basically move completely off of cAdvisor and use CRI for metrics. So that's kind of what the cap focuses on. It goes into detail into all the various metrics here. So this is for memory. So for memory today, I think there's only one metric I think that is provided by CRI, container memory working set, but summary API provides a lot more. So that's kind of the very high level proposal here, is to kind of extend the CRI API with these metrics such that summary API can migrate off of that. And so let's see here. You can look at the cap more detail. I won't go over it, but we provide some more motivation around why we want to do this, why we want to move toward the CRI off of cAdvisor here. We also talked about some things. So we went through the summary API, and some things probably don't make sense to carry over. For example, accelerator metrics are in the summary API today, for example, but they're deprecated. There was like a separate cap to deprecate them in the summary API. So we kind of only moved or proposed adding stuff to CRI that is not that's actually being used for the most part. So that's kind of the high level idea here. The other kind of big questions we have is around the metric cAdvisor endpoint. So the problem is that some people collect the metrics from the summary API, some people collect the metrics from the cAdvisor endpoint. If cAdvisor will not be collecting those metrics in the future, we need to have some story for people who collect metrics from this endpoint. So we still have some early discussions, I think, around how best to support that endpoint. One idea we had is, for example, to convert the metrics that we'll collect in the CRI implementation into Prometheus format, and that'll provide at least some story for people who need the metrics in Prometheus format. So there's some section that talks about specifically the migration path there. The whole idea, I think, from a high level, is to make it as least of a breaking change for users as possible, so that if they're using the summary API, they should have minimal changes. If they're using the metric cAdvisor endpoint, I think long term we want to make sure there's minimal breaking changes there. But of course, cAdvisor does collect a lot of metrics today that are present in this endpoint that's probably doesn't make sense to add to CRI. So some metrics will probably have to be skipped. So there will be some type of migration here, but we're hoping to kind of keep it minimal. Yeah, so then the cap talks more in detail around the CRI changes proposed. So basically adding we already have some initial stat fields in the CRI, but this is kind of building those out and including some more information basically, so that we can fulfill the whole summary API. So that's kind of what the rest of the KEP kind of goes over. Yeah, so that's kind of the high level idea, and we talk more about the graduation criteria and so forth. So I don't know, Peter, did you want to add anything on it, or is that decent summary? I don't know. Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty good summary. Yeah, I think the biggest couple of open questions that we have now are like, yeah, how to handle the metric C advisor, because like, yeah, most things in the Prometheus world, the Prometheus adapter, and even now metric server, though they're moving off of it, rely on that endpoint. And also the other thing is, now that we're moving this implementation to the CRI, there's the opportunity for us to customize based on that. So like there was some some folks who chimed in from Microsoft or Windows Container World, and it's possible that we may also want to define different fields for different operating system types. But yeah,
I can briefly comment on that as well.
Please, yeah.
So yeah, I'm still looking into that. Most of the folks who were looking into that, including me, were out end of last week and tomorrow, so I'll keep looking at that. But I know that with Windows containers, we kind of drastically changed how a lot of those stats are given between the host compute subsystem version 1, which is what Docker is based on, and the host compute subsystem version 2, which is what Containerd is based on for Windows. And I'm still trying to reconcile what all of the differences with that are. I don't have all of the history. I know that for the Docker-based implementation, the Windows subsystem would return metrics in a completely different format, and then it was either Docker or Docker shim would try and convert those to the kind of what Kubernetes would expect and expose. But since Docker is being deprecated, I'm focusing on the Containerd versions, and I don't have as much history there. So I'm still digging into that, but we'll do a nice review on this in the next coming days.
Cool, thanks.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think our biggest ask for people will probably be around if the metric additions make sense and what metrics they're relying on. I think a couple of interesting questions would be how much people are relying on the Prometheus endpoint, and specifically if they are, what metrics they are relying on. That'd be an interesting question I would like to get some feedback on. And the other thing is probably just in general around if this direction makes sense, and if people are on board with kind of moving more of this metric collection in the CRI layer. I think that's the other big question. Yeah, so if anyone has any thoughts, feel free to jump on the PR. There's already been a good amount of discussion there. So I think that's my main ask. Yeah. Yeah, any initial thoughts? I don't know, or we'll move that, I guess, on the PR if there's no immediate stuff. Cool. Okay, in that case, feel free to jump on the PR if you have any thoughts. All right, we'll move on.
So thanks, Peter and David, and for this effort. Yeah. So we want to have this one for years, and we finally people take action. Thanks, and please join their CAP and the PR for discussing. And the next one, Alala, please talk. And this is the N-2 school version testing. And yeah, please.
Yeah, I just put this on the agenda because it came up in some internal discussion. So according to the documentation, in theory, the kubelet is supposed to support, like, say you have an API server on version N, you can have a kubelet on version N-2. So for example, you have an API server on 119. In theory, a kubelet on 117 can still work with that. And so I had a question in terms of if anybody knows what the state of tests for that are. I haven't been able to find any. I also don't know if it is covered in conformance testing. So I reached out to Hippie Hacker, who sent me to the K8s conformance channel, and I started a thread there. So if anybody knows, I guess please post there. If you want to discuss, that would be good too.
I can fill you some context, but I don't know the current status. So I remember back in the 1.6 or 1.7, I'm the release manager. And so the API machinery and also Kubernetes of the working school is N-2 is defined even before first release. So we decided that one, but when I was like the release manager, I noticed that we never test. So there's only have like the random every release, and we find some people random in Google help community do that test. So if you notice that in the test infrastructure, I found the issue. I want to build the infrastructure for the system. There's the two things. One, it is manual, but it is the procedure. You have to have the auto procedure for every release. So we do have like a test grid. So which it is owned, I hope owned by the SIG class lifecycle. I believe that time SIG class lifecycle just first formed, and so they want to have the job work. So that's one of those test suite in the release 1.6 and 1.7. I forgot which one. And we asked them to from now on they have to make sure those working school test passed. So there's like the auto generator there's the proposal auto generate those like the N-2 test. That's the test infrastructure. Then at the same time, we ask like the SIG class lifecycle to figure out how to make that test even more automated. Like every time you branch card and you are automatic shift and all those kind of the upgrade school test for the new version. So there's the engineer working on, but I never follow up because after the release, I think I only follow up after that release and the next release as the consultant, and then I don't know current status. Even test grid being changed, and the SIG test also is being dramatically changed after several years. So I don't know, but it is in the past we do every release as the release manager. We document okay what kind of things you have to checkpoint, and so besides the conform. That time there's no conform test yet, right? So but we actually SIG Node have some like the term about conform time. So we said, oh, you have to check box those kind of things. And then there's the certain like the new feature, you have to make sure the alpha feature, certain things you have to test there. And then there's the upgrade test. Just share here. That's the background context, but I don't know the latest status here.
Yeah, does anybody else, is anybody on the call more familiar with what's going on with this stuff right now? No one jumping in, so I will continue.
I took an initial look, or sorry, I mean, I just searched around for the upgrade test. It looks, I did find it on TestGrid, I can link to it, but it does seem pretty old. The latest version, I think, is 1.14 that was tested. So, yeah, it's the only thing I could find. This guy.
Yeah, if you click on the Slack thread that I linked in the agenda, I found a bunch of different issues, all documenting that we need to test for this, since it's like a documented capability for clients to be able to do the N-2 SKU, but I can't seem to find any actual tests for it. So I will continue the discussion there and hopefully get everybody involved that needs to get involved, whether it's cluster lifecycle, folks working on conformance testing, that kind of thing. I think this needs to be a bigger conversation. So I don't know how much interest there actually is in doing this, since it increases a bunch of like, test cases that we'd have to worry about, given that we already support 3 versions. That's like a lot of SKU that we would need to cover. So.
Yeah, David, looks like that we stopped doing this thing in the 1.15. So you can see that 1.3 and the mast, that's basically N-2. So master branch actually is 1.15. That's exactly what I mentioned. In the 1.6 or 1.7, I try to build this so that every time we just auto shift to the next one. But it looks like the one started from 1.15, and then after nobody really shift that one, and didn't really maintain those healthiness. And in the release, because that's part of the release team's job to make sure this should be checkbox. So something for into crack, yeah. thanks, Alana, to brought this up. And I believe 1.16, we also have the API change, right? So maybe that's another reason we didn't, nobody really follow that and that issue here. Okay, so Alana, you are on the next topic.
Cool. Yeah, this is just a reminder for the group. I know for the past couple of weeks, we've been super busy with the 121 kept freeze and 121's focus stuff. So I certainly wasn't going to pester anybody while we were all busy working on that. But I am hoping to get sufficient feedback, maybe start narrowing down the scope in the next couple of weeks of what we want to accomplish for alpha swap support in 122. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that document, please go ahead and take a look. I've linked it in the agenda. Please feel free to send me a note. I'm gonna probably start paring down scope soon and like coming together with an actual proposal that we can discuss as a SIG, hopefully in the next few weeks.
Cool. Any question on this topic? And anyone want to partner with Alala and also on this one?
I think Karen has been helping. I don't know if he's on the call. I don't think so. Yeah, I'm very happy. Like if you have use cases, if you're interested in this feature, please reach out to me. We're gonna need lots of testing helping hands, so and feedback, so please do reach out. I would appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, so that's all for today. And anyone have other topic they want to call out and want to raise, please. Otherwise we are actually save everyone like the more than 15 minutes.
Amazing. Do we want to go over Sergey's chart?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Sergey, do you want to quickly update, summarize?
Yeah, I pasted the statistics and you're welcome to watch. Typically what I do is to go into created and see if there are any trends, but this time there were no trends, like just a lot of PRs were opened. Also, I didn't find anything screaming and closed ones, so I think it's just regular week, but I didn't look very deep because typically I spend more time on that, not just doing it during the meeting. So.
Thanks, Sergey. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, and for attending today's meeting, and looking forward for next week. And please raise your question and feedback. Share your feedback at the PR and the CAP. Thanks. Bye.